If you don't already know, Grognak is a comic book character in the Fallout universe, and with me already making one video on another comic character, I think it's about time to make another, as I ask the question, can you beat Fallout 4 as Grognak the Barbarian? This video falls under similar restrictions as the Silver Shroud video, as I can only use Grognak's act and wear his clothes. I will also add a little challenge as Grognak actually has comics within the game, so I made it my extra task to grab them all this run. But with that said, let's get on with the run itself. This time I actually decided to start within the vault entrance with a save file, as by now, if you've seen my previous Fallout 4 videos, I've shown it is very easy to get past the roaches, so there's no need for that again. Naming myself Grognak, I set my stats, giving myself a 9 in strength so DeepRooted can be taken early on, an 8 in agility for Blitz, and others spread out with a 6 in endurance, due to the Grognak armour not having much armour per se. I then created the specimen himself, Grognak, with his luscious blonde hair and smooth skin. Swiftly moving on, I left the vault and began my great journey to Hubris Comics. It was a grueling walk, and I had some hard fought battles here. Nah, who am I kidding? I just walked around everyone and everything on my way there. There was no trouble at all. Leveling up right outside Hubris Comics, I struck the point in toughness, as what I was about to do is indeed tough, due to all the ghouls living inside the place. So I walked straight in and grabbed the axe, first try. Now I'll tell you in a bit why that's impossible, but for now, just watch me get ripped to shreds. It was on my next try where I realised what I had physically just done was impossible. I just grabbed the axe as if the case was not there, so I tried to grab it another couple of times, and when that failed, I was swarmed by many ghouls, so I decided to run upstairs and grab the armour as I couldn't get into the case, as I had now finally realised the case was locked, and had no way to get the lockpick perk, so that was delightful. Not wanting to drop the run, or restart, at the first hurdle, as I knew I could grab the axe as I had done it the first time around, so I elected to continue trying, but first I was going to get upstairs. With my first try failing, I was unlucky enough to get there with minimal damage and grab Grognak's armour. Equipping it, I sprinted back down through the building and out the front door, where the ghouls followed me outside, and with no way to kill them, and not wanting them to follow me back inside, so I could grab the axe in peace. So I saw absolutely no other choice but to lead the horde to the only guys I knew could take on the task: Diamond City Security. First, however, I had to make it out of the ghoul mosh pit I found myself in, but with a bit of wild flailing I made it out. Then luckily my plan was only needed on one of the ghouls, as all the others dispersed onto their local raider population, and I was left with just the glowing one. It took me a while of just getting it to follow me around, and eventually we were able to meet up with some security, one getting demolished, but I was able to hide atop a destroyed truck and let the two guys who were left put down the ghoul. Me being a nice sport, I celebrated with a little dance atop its corpse. Stealing the arm guards from the dead security man, I headed back to Hubris Comics to try my luck at grabbing the axe once again. Firstly, I reviewed the footage of how when I grabbed it the first time and found out I just managed to position myself very luckily, so that's what I worked on. So after a while I was eventually able to grab the axe and was finally done with Hubris Comic. Now finally with the axe in my possession, I will speak on the stats for the weapon. As for a weapon you can get this early, it is incredibly powerful, doing a base damage of 25, along with the added bleed effect. This made it very useful. It also reaffirmed my love of melee weapons I had gained from the Power Fist video. But with all that aside, I now set my sights on some comics, grabbing the first one around the corner from Swan's Pond, and now I will also mention I did grab the one in Sanctuary. I just forgot to mention it a few paragraphs ago. So making it to the third one at Wicket Shipping Fleet Lockup, I culled some ghouls all going down in one hit, emphasising to me just how powerful the axe truly was, and I grabbed the comic. Oh, I will also say I was learning their locations from a nice map I had found on the Fallout wiki, so they should be easy enough to find. But for now I had a Preston to save, so to the end I went and cleared my path to him, cutting down all the raiders which lay in my way, as I did, reaching him and then helping him once again, clearing out all the rest from Concord until the Deathclaw rose from below, which saw me attack immediately in VATS, which I had learned from my raider killing escapades was a very good way to whittle down enemies. So after doing a fair amount of damage, I resorted to duck and cover to try coax the Deathclaw out of hiding, and also regen my AP. It's taking a while, but eventually leading it down to the front street, I got it very low with VATS, and Todd Howard himself came down from the heavens to take the Deathclaw back up with him, and with one final whack, and him shouting, "It just works," the Deathclaw was put to rest. After that amazing display, I took the Minutemen back to Sanctuary, where I leveled up, getting the rooted perk, which gives me 25% more damage from melee attacks, also along with 25% less damage taken while standing still. I'll tell you now, with my liberal use of VATS, this became very useful. Then, getting the quest to help 10 Pines Bluff from Preston, I headed out that way. I took this as one of the Grognak comic was in Corvega, and I thought I might as well get some more XP for clearing it out. Also on my way to 10 Pines Bluff, I ended up in Satellite Station Olivia, where I killed even more raiders, collecting all their weapons for money, and even the locket for the Abernathies. Clearing out the whole place, I left, got the quest from the settlers at 10 Pines Bluff, and made my way to Corvega, only stopping off to kill Wolfgang and Simone while on my way there. Inside Corvega was so much fun, as by now I had Blitz, so my entire time in there was spent VATS locking onto each of the raiders and teleporting around, one-shotting each of them as I went, until I reached Jared, teleporting up to him, putting him down, also collecting the comic gear. I shall also add, with every comic I grab, my melee power grows even stronger, as they give a 5% boost to melee attacks. I then left, handed in the quest to Preston, but I refused to join the Minutemen, as I had another faction in mind for this run. But for now, I was on a quest for more comics, and that I satiated by going into Vault 81, as there was yet another I could get from just talking to some kids. This is not as weird as you might think. I just had to recite a story to the class of 2 children. I'd assumed there was supposed to be more, but I filled the rest of the chairs with random objects I'd found for some reason. The teacher then gave me the comic, and I had yet another in mind, and run over to Backstreet Apparel, where I killed even more easy, low-level raiders with my new favourite weapon, to collect yet another comic. And then visiting Diamond City to stock up on stimpaks, I talked to Ellie about saving Nick, as this time, for some reason, I decided to talk to her beforehand instead of just going to get him. I then stole Kellogg's key instead of getting it later, and fast travelled to Park Street Station, as I had marked earlier when I grabbed the comic near Swan. Inside the station, I think can be best represented by this clip of me entering. So as you can see, with my newfangled teleportation power, they were a joke, as they were already, due to the triggermen practically being low level raiders with bad armour, so the whole station was a breeze, only having some trouble as they were able to get me quite low with their submachine guns, but my blitz was too quick for them, so they all came crashing down. Eventually reaching Nick, we fought our way to the Fat Man, marking them all for death, with 1 VATS lock each, Skinny being the first to go down, with a bit of a show-off move from me, getting my axe lodged into his head, having to pull him down with it. With the others all coming down, in 1 swing each, that was all they wrote for the triggermen. I then told Nick I'd meet him back at Diamond City, and I went on another comic collecting mission, where I stumbled upon a battle between some children of Atom and Gunners. I can say it was not fun being stuck in between that, but reloading I took another approach, as it was the house with the bus atop it I needed, so dropping down from the overpass I collected the comic and got out of there, not stopping until I reached the Old North Church, killing some ghoulies and meeting up with the railroad, then being whom I was going to side with this run, as I thought they would best resemble a super team. As Grognak was a hero in the comics, I thought it was best to side with them, as they wanted to save the simps, and I thought that was the most heroic thing I could do. So I agreed with Deacon to meet him at Lexington, starting their quest line. Before meeting up with him, I decided to head over to Mass Pike Interchange, as there was yet another comic located there, here being my most tough time yet, as the whole place was full of gunners, as I had to go up the lift to the top and was greeted by their assaultron and a flurry of bullets. So it's nice to say, I was melted a few times. Eventually I was able to make it to the top and into a spot where I could dip and in and out of cover, taking them down one by one, eventually getting the assaultron, but moments before it melted my face off once again, and with a few more swings of my axe, the rest all came crashing down. I then collected my reward in the form of yet another comic book. Moving on from that, as I was close, as I decided to mark Fort Hagen on the map, so I could just fast travel there later. Then meeting up with Deacon, and we went down the sewers. Now under Slocum Joe's, the simps were as easy as the rest of the enemies I'd taken down by this point, but I can say I started to feel the side effects of their laser weapons. With my veritable lack of energy resistance, I had no proper counter, except for the healthy amount of stimpaks I made liberal use of, but not much more of note happened here, just a lot of metal scraping noises as I crushed all the simps, grabbed Carrington's prototype, and made my escape back to the Old North Church, where I was welcomed as a part of the railroad. Now wanting even more comics for my collection, I went down to Hyde Park to grab yet another before moving on Kellogg. This one being easy enough, only getting lost once as I tried to make it up to the raiders protecting it, but they were all a pushover. So grabbing it, I returned to Diamond City, where I stocked up on some more stimpaks, ransacked Kellogg's house, showed my information to Dogmeat, and fast travelled to Fort Hagen to wait his arrival. Making my way inside Fort Hagen once Dogmeat had arrived, it was much like Solicum Joe's, with my main problem being the simps as they were using energy weapons. But other than that, they all came crashing down just as easily, as Grognak's axe genuinely is one of the best melee weapons in the game, and I pushed my way towards Captain Cornflakes. By now also having many different perks to help my overall damage output, like Little Leaguer and an AP increase. So I was set up for the confrontation, which I think I set record speed for, because as usual I didn't let Kellogg speak, and just went in swinging. But with the added effect of using that and unleashing a critical hit upon him, he went down in just 3 swings, me only having to finish off his simps afterwards. I then looted his corpse and returned to Nick, had some fun in his memories, and was off to the glowing sea, to find myself a big green man, which was easy enough. As soon as I hit radiation, I put on the hazmat suit I picked up from Solicum Joe's. And before I continue, this does not invalidate the run, as I think if Grognak was forced to put on a rad suit, he would do it to survive, but if you disagree, feel free to click off the video. Proceeding on from that, I made it to Virgil, with no trouble. He told me of a Corso location, so with that in mind, I went back to Society. And now to move away from the story one final time, I went off to collect my final 2 Grognak comics. One in Vault 75 under a skull, and the other in the Museum of Witchcraft. The Museum of Witchcraft, me having never been to in my over 250 hours in Fallout 4. So I was so excited to do that. But at first I was on to Vault 75. Getting there was no hassle. Just saw me run from Lexington over to the school and down into the basement, which housed the vault. Finding out there was yet even more gunners to fight. Due to them being as easy as the rest, the main thing I'll focus on down here is the quest, which is to find out the devious things that happen down here. Getting into the science quarters, so following this, I made it to the shooting range, seemingly designed for the kids, and found a keycard to get me access to the laboratory area. Also finding the science bobblehead down here, if anyone wanted to know that. All the while still hacking my way through the gunners, and I was eventually able to make it to the overseer's office, and there I found out they experimented on the kids. Who could have guessed? Anyway, I found my second to last comic, so my time here was now over. I then ran off, reached the Museum of Witchcraft, and I was now in for a fun time, after finding yet even more gunners. These ones were dead, mind you, so making my way into the basement, being genuinely I was shit scared, as Bethesda seemingly went all out on the horror for this one, as I could hear the deathclaw above me savaging the gunners. Making my way up to the top floor, and moving very slowly I might add, I found a goddamn savage deathclaw, with a skull in its name. Being kinda terrified up to this point, I immediately commenced that, began swinging, thankfully getting critical off, Bethesda coming in clutch as the glitch which launches the enemies into the air started happening again, so the deathclaw couldn't touch me. But realising just how much damage it did outside of that, I ran away and hid, waiting for my AP to recharge. Doing this twice and the big boy finally came crashing down. That was an experience, if I may say, but I was rewarded greatly with my final Grognak comic being added to my collection. But I still had one final thing to clear up, grabbing the deathclaw egg and returning it to its mother, who slid down the hill and thanked me. But now with my collection complete, I returned to the main story and made my way to Green Tech. Inside was yet more gunners for me to cut down. Getting through the lower levels quite quickly. As per usual, I had some trouble with the rocket one, killing me once, but the second time I was able to strike her down. The only other thing of note is Grognak decided to stop teleporting at one point and just apparently used the force to cut down all the gunners. But finally making it to the Corsa, I employed the same tactic I had used on Kellogg, and the Corsa came down in no time at all, me just ripping the chip from it afterwards. I then got the chip decoded by the railroad, got the plans from Virgil, and with the help of the railroad, I got inside the institute, immediately contacting Patriot and starting the underground undercover quest line. For now I met up with his father and agreed to help him while being undercover for the railroad, and was also shown Z1 by Patriot as he tasked me with collecting a code from Cambridge Polymer Lab. So after meeting all the institute leaders, I was allowed out after being tasked by father to reclaim a synth, so my tasks were all made. Firstly stopping off at the labs to grab the code for Patriot, killing the Mr. Handy as soon as I entered, as to not get locked inside the decontamination chamber. Went up to the roof as I remembered this time, got the code, killed some ghouls, and tried to get back out, but somehow the Mr. Handy was back to life. I didn't exactly know how that happened, but I went back, opened the door through my own methods, and killed it again. Leaving the code in hand, I ran from the Museum of Witchcraft down to Libertalia, but with my synth backup being distracted by some Brotherhood, I elected to swim under the rafts and run up the boat, thankfully catching the one with the nuke. Though they did in fact launch the nuke at my feet, somehow I survived and was able to kill them. Better luck than I had last time. I was then able to get up to the top of the ship and recall the synth. Returning to the institute, I gave the code to Patriot, and Z1 told me to go aid and escape in the basement, so that's what I did. coming quite close to death, but I was saved by the escapees and went to help father some more, him being completely oblivious to what had just transpired in his basement, him congratulating me about the captured Synth Battalion and tasked me with helping him at Bunker Hill, to which I said no thank you and just killed my Corsair escort, allowing me to just run along to CIT and converse with him there. He was seemingly angry at me with my transgressions, but for some reason decided to forgive me immediately, as we had a meeting and he told me he was dying. I was then off to Mass Fusion, where I had my first taste of the Brotherhood steel, the unarmoured ones all going down in one hit, and the one in power armour going down in one full VATS attack, so they were all genuinely a pushover. Grabbing the keycard, I didn't want to rely on Ali on my way down the lift, so I elected to jump straight off Mass Fusion down to Good Neighbour, and as it was a load zone, I was totally fine. Running in the front door, we made our way to the basement, where I took some Radaway and Rad-X, grabbed the beryllium agitator, commencing the lockdown. With the robots much like every other enemy I'd beaten up to this point, with an ample amount of VATS being used, they went down as quick as everything else. With even the Assaultrons being a breeze, I was out of there. The rest of the Institute missions involved me kidnapping a man, putting some buttons in some places, firing up the reactor, and having a meeting. I was then informed by Z1 the Brotherhood was about to attack the railroad, so getting there just in time, their assault commenced. I immediately attacked the power armoured one, causing the suit to melt down, which may have caused a sizable nuclear explosion, but moving on, I went to clear out the rest of the Brotherhood, walking straight past Glory as she died, because who really cares, and just before attacking, I pumped myself full of drugs, causing a few more freak explosions before reaching the top floor. It was then just a matter of vatsing the rest of them, not even allowing for them to say, for Elder Maxon, as I killed them that quickly, and Desdemona put Operation Red Glare into effect. I then met up with Stinker Tom outside Cambridge Police Station. Clearing the place out was fun. It just had me teleporting around, swinging my axe like a madman, until all the Brotherhood were dead. Now moving on to the Pridwin, I was not going to change into the Brotherhood outfit, as Grognak didn't strike me as one to dress up in a disguise. He struck me as one to go full force. So with that in mind, I went onto the ship with the full intention of killing everyone. And that's exactly what I did, moving throughout the ship like a god, teleporting in and out between all the members, slowly whittling their numbers down, putting down all the main guys, rigging the bombs, until it was just Maxon and his 2 bodyguards left aboard the ship. So moving down, he was ready and waiting with his Gatling laser. So quickly moving to the side, out of view, I pumped it up, myself full of drugs that is. Dispatching Maxon in rapid pace, and along with his 2 bodyguards, I had done it. I had cleared out the whole ship. I then hopped back on the vertibird and watched the fireworks commence. And I had it, the nuclear option. So returning to the Institute, I met up with Z1 and beamed all my train enthusiast homies into the Institute. We then fought our way down through the layers. When I say we, I basically just mean me, as I could get much further with my axe. They did do something as they served as backup in the main room. I was then able to delete Father from this mortal plane, rig the reactor to explode. We all were then teleported to Mass Fusion. As I pressed the button, the Institute went kaboom, and it proved, yes in fact, you can obviously beat Fallout 4 as Grognak the Barbarian. This genuinely was a fun one to record, I can tell you that much. I also do insist you try it out yourself, as I genuinely did enjoy this one. And also, if you did enjoy the video, do consider liking and subscribing, as it helps me out a lot. And if you have any suggestions or feedback, do write a comment, as it is much appreciated and helps me get better as a creator. But with that, I hope you have a good day, and goodbye everybody.